Hello, everyone. This is Patricia Kong from Scrum.org. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm not sure that actually even matters anymore, but I am really happy today to be hosting today's Scrum Pulse, faster total flow to value through Lean Agile Procurement. You'll see these two gentlemen here on their webcams, that's Simon Reindl and Mirko Kleiner. UK and I think Switzerland, although Mirko has been awake since I think 2 in the morning in Switzerland, and Simon doesn't sleep, so that's fine. But we have an interesting topic today. When we talk about agility in the organization, there's always the conversation that kind of says, okay, beyond the team, within an organization, beyond the team, what are the limits that we hit? And so procurement has been a conversation or a question that comes up often, right? As well as, you know, we've talked about already sales and things like budgeting and contracts and stuff like that. So Simon and I were friends, so we talked about this, and he was talking about some of the implementations that he has been working on using an approach called Lean Agile Procurement. And then he said, hey, Patricia, let's get the creator of that, Mirko Kleiner, to share some of those thoughts. So I'm really happy that we can have both of them to talk about this approach, and then some of their implementations, and they've got some tools in there that that everyone can learn more about. So we'll get started right away. So let's get through with the housekeeping, Simon, and I'll turn it over to you. So next slide, please. There you go. All right, everyone, you're muted, but please ask questions. We have Lindsay in the background who will be handling some of the technical questions. And then as you have questions, Simon and Mirko would like them to just come in, and I'll interrupt them, and we'll work on those. They're very fluid with that. That will be in the right-hand side. As you know, there's a chat, but the question box is where I'll be monitoring your questions. Next slide for Scrum.org. Scrum.org is the home of Scrum, and we're owned by Ken Schwaber, who's the founder of Scrum.org, also the co-creator of the Scrum framework. We're focused on training, education, and certification validation, and a lot of that obviously talks about learning paths and ongoing learning, validated learning, and also looking at topics like these. What happens beyond the team? Where's that thought leadership coming from? And what we look for when we share this information is really the notion of consistency. And as you can see from today, I'm in Massachusetts in the United States, but we're a global community. And so we have a lot of those conversations that we can bring with that in the background. So with that, I've done my marketing spiel. I will now kick it over to Simon and Mirko, and they can get into the content, and I'll be looking at your questions in the background. Take it away, Simon.
Thanks, Trish. A quick introduction for myself. My name's Simon Reindl. I've been a professional Scrum trainer for, well, as long as I can remember, pretty well. So I was the first PST in the UK, and I'm the co-author of Mastering Professional Scrum with Stephanie Ockerman. I'm also a Lean Agile Procurement trainer because I was talking about this stuff and was fortunate enough to be invited to work with this wonderful framework through Mirko. So Mirko, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Yeah, so my name is Mirko Kleiner. I'm the thought leader in Lean Agile Procurement, and as many of the people in procurement, I have no idea how I ended up in that topic. But to be honest, it's an interesting topic, especially nowadays, because it could generate a lot of business impact, and we're gonna deep dive into that much further. I have a long history in Scrum. I have a background in software. I co-built up a software company, applied Scrum and Agile practices and principles in my own company back in the early 2000s. And in the meanwhile, yeah, running my own consultancy, Flow Days, which is a cooperative of senior Agile coaches over here in Switzerland and Germany. And also I am the founder of the Lean Agile Procurement Alliance, which is driving this whole movement. Yeah, one last marketing thing. Visit us on our topic website, leanagileprocurement.com. You can download the canvas that we're going to deep dive in it, and soon also our annual report, State of Agility in Procurement and Supply. Some very interesting insights. I can promise we're going to publish it soon. So yeah, thanks for having me. It's just awesome being here, talking to the Scrum.org community, unless I'm not a Scrum.org trainer. That's maybe something I need to catch up with you, Simon.
There's so many badges, so little time, right?
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
That's it. So if we could just start talking through the whole procurement situation, because classic procurement, it's a long process often. There's a long lead time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I used to be, as I mentioned, a software vendor, and especially not just in software, but back those days, we were involved in multi-million dollar, pounds, Swiss francs, euro bids, and it was just pain in the ass, to be honest. A lot of effort, and later on, as I started to coach and support the customer side, we came in touch with commercial functions like procurement, and it turned out it's kind of a lose-lose situation, because they have no appropriate approach, tools, etc., to cope with complex cases. So what you see here is just an abstract visualization of the whole value stream from idea till value delivered. And so we are, if you look at that, we are very good, very agile in ideation, and we are very agile if it comes to delivery. But all in the middle, it's very transactional and traditional way of working with a lot of waste and almost no value for the customer. So that was the thing we wanted to improve, and we instead of doing just a traditional value stream mapping and analysis, we said, okay, let's do it totally different. What if we have just one day, for example, to source an ERP system, or to set up, to find a new partner, or extend our Scrum team with external partners? What if we have just one day? What would we do differently? And how agile values and practices could help us. And this is a very simplified approach. So we said, okay, if we have just one day, we would need to bring the people that are supposed to do the delivery to the very beginning, to the of the whole process. And we somehow took the concept of cross-functional, or DevOps, if you like, to the next level. We said, okay, why we have these handovers from business or innovation to procurement, then later on to sales, then to legal, and then lucky for the agile delivery teams, they have no idea what the guys before have talked about. So we extend the cross-functional team with everybody needed in the whole chain. So procurement is on board. We work a lot with Swiss banks, as you can imagine. So often compliance, regulation is a topic. To get around that, we just add somebody from compliance to the team. And of course, the business stays in ownership from the beginning. So the product owner role is key to that. And the approach is quite easy. So we have the 4 steps. Initialization, we set up the cross-functional team, hopefully with the help of a business case, and we come to the canvas in a minute. We found out that the business model canvas, for example, is not enough if you're looking for to set up a partnership, or to find a partner, contracting, etc. So we invented a new tool, and as an extension of that. And so what we do in step 2 is we apply Scrum, obviously, for this cross-functional team as an operating model. And we just walk through the same steps that procurement does and all the others in between till we can start delivery. So we are still compliant with all those steps and governances, etc. So, for example, we might have a design thinking workshop in between as a team. We might co-create a draft of an agile contract as a team, include the lawyer from the beginning. We might even include the users, the main stakeholders, and even the vendors to help us design the solution, find the best product, and so on. And the magic
Mirko?
definitely, yeah.
I was just wondering, so and there's a question coming in too. At the beginning of the process, and maybe even in the picture before in this picture, so we're building essentially a cross-functional team. Is there a notion of, you talked about design thinking, is there a notion of prototyping? Do we have the customer involved at the beginning and throughout, or is it just beginning, you know, traditionally beginning, there's a request, goes away, and then the customer comes back? What does that look like?
Well, we applied the similar principles like in we do in Lean Startup or similar approaches. So we are we are iterating constantly and looking for feedback and testing our hypothesis. So as I said, the secret sauce is in the third step, where it's at one point in time we have an idea this partners could be the perfect partner. Or this could be the product or the service or even goods or a combination of it. So instead of just sending them the tender documents or the specifications, we invite them and we co-create the proposals together simultaneously. Just imagine having several competitors simultaneously in the same room, and then also talk about collaboration, how we going to work together. We test that together. We even run proof of concepts or hackathon in parallel, and then we decide. And that's the magic, you know, having this collaboration over contract negotiation, that simple and that old, 20 years now, applied now full stack from idea till value delivered. And does that? Yeah. Would you like to?
Yeah, just understand that the whole ideation phase would occur in whichever way. Like if you're in a very iterative model, of course you do your design hypothesis definition. This can also be applied if you've got some more traditional methods where you have to do a PID before you can go to tender. So it can be used and adapted in whatever process flow you want, but it's when you want to put it into a complex problem-solving mode, you should be thinking about that idea, and you're going to need a little bit of money to fund this so that you can get the right people in the room. Because when we move into this step that Mirko is talking about, the third and fourth phase where we do the big room evaluation, you need decision makers in the room. So those senior people need to be free to be there. And whoever's in that room needs to have decision rights from both the company and the future partners. That's a really key point.
Yeah, and just to give you an example, we recently sourced an ERP system in just 2 days. For people that have no idea what that usually takes, usually a lead time from idea, we need to replace an ERP system till we start delivering. So contract signed, team set up is between 6 to 12 months, and we did that in 2 days. Now think of that like, okay, we're gonna organize a workshop, having the competitive vendors in the room, and at the end of the workshop, it was a 2 days workshop, we want to sign the improved agile contract. We improve it together with the vendors. We want to decide and sign it and start delivery as soon as possible. Now think your way backwards. What are the steps you need to test so that you can decide? What you need to prepare And that's basically what we do in the steps beforehand.
Thank you. Please keep your questions coming in. I want to pull on something that both of you touched on. And Simon, you said, getting the right people in the room and, that authority and power. And Mirko, you touched on something, and it almost sounds like a reality show, but getting these competitors together in one space and collaborating, what does that look like? Or how do you make that happen? Because they all have their own secret sauce, right?
Yeah, sure. And the agile, everything we do, the whole approach is based on agile values. So honesty, trust, collaboration, being encouraged, etc., is just built in. So we need to, with the invitation of and there is some steps beforehand, we need to brief them and say, hey, listen, we're going to do that in a slightly different approach. There will be competitors in the same room, and we're gonna have a conversation with them. What we need to do that you first show up, and second that you feel comfortable. And if it's a standard product, like in this case with the ERP system, maybe there are not really intellectual properties to protect, but maybe they are not confident to share the commercials or the contractual details. So usually there's a simple solution. We just have, for all the confidential topics, we have private sessions. But majority, the estimation, solution design, co-creating an agile roadmap, etc., is happening in the big room where everybody, so that we could also assess not just their product and their but also their behaviors, and we could test the collaboration even before we get married. Somebody called it a speed dating, and I like this analogy.
And the thing is that most large organizations will have multiple vendors offering services, and so typically, you work at a very large organization, you're going to have multiple vendors working together on a product. And so it's really important to ensure that everybody from the vendor community as well as the company community understands that this is a collective ownership. So we're not trying to create punitive relationships. We're trying to build that collaborative approach and diversity from the start, so that people understand the vision and work towards the common vision.
And even better than that, if somebody, for example, would write in his proposal, we are experienced in Agile since 10 years, we've worked for you, etc. Well, we make that a topic. What about the proposed guys? Have they worked for us? What's their expertise in Agile? And we don't just trust, we test it, right? So we, for example, give them 50, 70, 80 user stories and let them estimate it on the stress in 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be precise. It's more of that they get in touch with the scope. That will change anyway, right? Because it's complex. And also to see how they react on that. Have they a clue how relative estimation works? Is the most senior guy claim the whole work and runs almost in a burnout? Or do they split up in subgroups and come up with the right questions? So what we do is we do obviously the business fit, but on the other side we do also the culture and social fit, which is as important to be successful in the complex space.
And so the outcome of this big room event is the byproduct is the canvas, but the output is that you have an agreement to start the partnership to start building, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
An interesting question that probably should be pitched now is, what do we do for large organizations where they actually are not, it's not acceptable or it's uncomfortable to get all vendors together in one session? Do you have an alternative, or is there some pros and cons you might want the audience to think about when you don't have the vendors together? I can think of a few offhand, but let's get it from you experts.
Yeah, good question. So first of all, if somebody doesn't want to show up or feels uncomfortable, we have a conversation about it. You know, what is it? And it could be that they do not agree with our values of openness, and then maybe it's the wrong partner. Okay, so we reject the invitation. The good reason we did it at the very beginning of our movement, we did it in sequence, and there are some good reasons not to do it. The first is it's unfair. You learn as you go as a cross-functional team at the buyer side. Second is if you learn something with let's say with the latest vendor, it's impossible to go back in time and share it with the others so that they can adapt their proposal, solution design, etc. The third thing is if something occurs, you know, that is relevant for all of them, even in the private sessions, we have the opportunity to immediately share it with all of them, so that they, you know, we found a cost driver or something that just makes no sense. Sometimes the vendors inspire the customer to change the business case, right? Instead of paying them by time or for their service, they maybe go into a more profit share or in a subscription model, whatever. So we talk about all that. To give you another example, with the ERP case, for example, I have no idea about ERP systems. It turned out that the licensing model was the most complex thing. So as we realized that, we immediately stopped the workshop and we asked the three vendors to forget about that they are competitors for the next 15 minutes and say, could you please co-create the optimal licensing model together? And they just did, and it was a piece of cake because they were the experts. And last but not least, we also used intelligence in the room to challenge each other. So, for example, if there is a solution design that makes no sense, it's super complex, or an agile roadmap, we share that. They should learn from each other and improve their proposals and solution designs and so on. So often the cross-functional team at the buyer side is not the expert. That's why we need a partner, right? And that's just a great opportunity to have this collective, to use this collective intelligence.
So the parallel to folks who haven't done a lot of procurement is when you're refining a product backlog item to get ready for a sprint, does each member of the dev team refine it individually on their own in isolation with the product owner? No, it's inefficient and ineffective. If we can get that diversity of that cross-functional perspective to refine together, calling in relevant subject matter experts, then we will be much more accurate and will be faster. And it's the similar approach. So we need to be careful not to silo off discussions. Yes, if there's something that is particularly commercially sensitive, then take that to one side. But you want that fairness and the openness of the broad prospect in that room. It also enables your various different partners. They might come together and form a coalition or form a joint bid. Yeah, you know, Mirko's seen that a few times. I've seen that a couple of times where the actual bid proposal is different when you walk out of the room. It's very similar to sprint planning. You know, you go into sprint planning with this, hey, we're going to do it this way, and I'd like to get this goal, and this is roughly what we're going to do. And you come out of it, once you've had a good discussion, with a slightly different roadmap.
Yeah, one more thing that inspires me, you simplified it and brought it down to a Scrum team, is we learned, and it was not initially designed for that, we learned that the approach we developed with the help of the also and the canvas that we use, we need to ask exactly the same question to set up any Scrum team, because it's about alignment. What's our direction? It's about the frame conditions. It's about the right people. it's about the value set, collaboration model, etc., etc. So just imagine what we are doing is just the most complex type of setting up a Scrum team, where we don't know the product or service, we do not have all the people internally, but you could use it also for more simple cases. So we apply the Canvas and the approach for in all our transformations to help setting up a Scrum or any kind of agile team or team of teams much more effective. So Simon just went through the next slide. So if you are familiar with the business model Canvas, and I'm in contact with Alex Osterwalder, I know him since years. I asked him recently, there is this column key partners, and I asked him, how do you get those? And he said, yeah, that what the fuck, that's pain in the ass. We are not able to do it. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what we try to solve. So we start with the business case, and then we do need more to establish and develop a partnership. So the canvas is divided in, on the right-hand side, you have the customer or the buyer side in blue, and on the left-hand side, green, it's all about the partner. I don't like the term supplier because it's not acting on the same eye level. You just need to supply. No, we are looking for a partner. And in the middle, we share the why. Which company objectives are we supporting? What's the vision of this product? What's the current business objectives we try to resolve with these partnerships? And then on the right-hand side, it's all about the what. Who is our end user, customer, or persona, if you like? What are their needs? And on the left-hand side, it's all about the how, the solution, capabilities, services, products that serve our needs. And so for procurement folks, this is nothing new. You already do that, maybe not in a compromised form like a canvas. This is the business fit. But what we bring in is another dimension. It's the people. Who will collaborate together to make this happen from both sides. And often, especially the vendors, I've heard that so many times being a vendor. Yeah, who is available? We want to have the best people. What's their availability, etc. We ask. We do the opposite. We say, okay, let's do our homework. Who is product owner? Who are the main stakeholders? Who else could be in the cross-functional team from our side? And who else do we need to extend it, or could be also at scale team of teams? So the canvas is a living document. We iterate on it, and we end up with tons of attachments. You know, it could be a value stream, it could be a user story map, it could be an agile roadmap, and so on and so on. So it's always just a summary. By the way, we also used it for two different purposes than setting up a team and for sourcing. We also used it as an assessment tool of an existing team or partnership. And second, and that I just love that, we started to use it the opposite way. So it became a proposal. To give you an example, we are an agile consultancy, so we get asked a lot about the how. Do you have this kind of trainings? Do you have this kind of agile coaches, leadership coaches, etc.? So yeah, that's the how. We have that. By the way, those are the people available. This is our cost structure, our USP, and so on. This is our vision. Can we start talking about why you want to become agile? Who we will work together? What are the needs we're going to resolve? And by the way, what are the frame conditions for this transformation? So there is a big opportunity to use it also the opposite way.
I've also used it internally between teams within an organization. So anytime that you have a collaboration that needs to be articulated, that you want to make people understand how you're going to collaborate together to deliver on something, you can use the canvas. It's a tool in your toolbox. And
Exactly.
often, there's been a few places where it's easier to hire people in from the outside than to get people from within your organization. And this may help make that clearer. So that's the key instrument really in the big room planning. So each partner would build one of these canvases, and you would also share the output of this canvas with each partner. So we, in a similar style to a lot of big room planning events, you're going to walk around, you're going to see other people's homework. You can compare and contrast. And so you offer feedback in an objective and positive way on what other partners say to make sure that you are capturing the needs of the customer and addressing them fairly.
Yeah, and just want to add one thing. Just think the DevOps movement beyond. You know, we in the early days of Agile, Scrum was applied just in delivery, and then we came across, yeah, quality assurance. We should include that. Then operations. Oh, there is an unnecessary handover. Oh, okay, now we have DevOps. Now. All security might be another issue, and so on and so on. So the sourcing and also team development, partner management on the long run will become a team responsibility, right? That you can't outsource that. So and we see that already happening in a lot of companies. So as Simon said, it's a tool every Scrum Master, but also product owner should have it in its pocket.
So if you're, yeah,
go ahead, Simon.
No, I was just going to say, as you become more accountable as a product owner for your product, and you're approaching that entrepreneurial mindset, it's a way of articulating that that dimension of your business model canvas, so it can help with that product definition space.
That's a great segue to start talking about essentially the value flow behind this. But just one last question, and we'll get into more questions hopefully at the end. Is this something that generally that canvas as a tool, are you providing that to the vendors, you know, in advance? Or is this something you just kind of like, okay, everybody sit down in your corners and fill this out, or is this something that you're making them aware of this approach?
You provide it in advance, but you fill it out collaboratively during the big room planning.
Yeah. So the question I usually discuss with the team is, what is the minimum data the vendor needs to bring in the right people, right? The more information we share, there's a risk that they create waste on their end. They prepare a prototype or estimated on the wrong assumptions and so on, create a solution design, not talking to each other. So we really love to have to bring the right people together, and then let's do it together, right? That's the main idea, and it's as simple as that. So if you would simplify everything we do, it's just bringing the right people together, right? Users, decision takers, people in the Scrum team, or potential people that might extend the Scrum team, lawyers, compliance, just everybody, sales, just everybody needed to co-create a proposal, improve the contract, and if you like, if it makes sense, even to test the collaboration with a proof of and the product with a proof of concept in parallel.
And this is before you would start a project, kickstart,
yes.
say.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why it's probably amazing that you could get this done for an ERP system in 2 days.
Yeah, exactly.
So
would you walk us through our mission, Simon?
Sure. So the whole point, it's value flow. And if we think about the whole purpose of a lean system, it's to get to value as effectively as possible. So when we address these procurement issues, we reduce the cost of delay. So our procurement becomes days instead of months. And we're focusing on the needs and the mission, the why of the system instead of the wants. So we're really focusing on addressing that core aspect. because that canvas has been tested under law and it is a legal contract once the autographs go on it, it becomes very adaptive, and we're talking about the adaptations needed instead of the fixed relationship. So we're moving beyond the fixed price, fixed scope, fixed cost contracting, so that we are allowing that flexibility. And we're also talking about shared risk between the partners and the company. So we're building partnerships instead of relationships. And when we see this collaborative way, in the same way that we've seen the collaboration within Agile teams, within Scrum teams, it's more fun instead of pain. So then people can start looking at collaborating together to deliver value instead of some tedious box ticking exercise with procurement. So the next thing is a bit of a case study summary, Mirko.
Well, yeah, I think this sums it up quite nicely, right? So if we look just at the sourcing part of Lean Agile Procurement, then one of the case studies with Air France was that they said, well, we didn't just get proposals. Because of collaboration, we had this iterative improving of each of the proposals, and then we picked the best of it, right? It's like we start to iterate even before we start the partnership, and that's how, I mean, for me, it just makes sense, because how we should cope with complexity in another way. I mean, we can try to guess and guesstimate, but then it will be definitely wrong, or maybe we are lucky.
Yeah. So if we then tie that back to the EBM model, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, the whole concept of EBM within the Scrum.org model is that there's 4 key value areas. There's 2 that address market capability, and that's unrealized value. Where is the additional potential value that you can achieve with your product? And there's your current value. How much of the current market are you tapped into, and how is your organization delivering towards that current value? The other 2 key value areas are addressing organizational capability. And this is where we're thinking about ability to innovate. How quickly can your organization adapt and respond to a need to innovate? How effective is your organization at improving value, finding that gap in the market, and then solving it, fixing it? And time to market. This key value area is like literally, how quickly can you get that product to the market and learn from it? Because value is an assumption until we test it in the marketplace. So that speed to get an idea to the marketplace in its lightest possible form to validate it and then build and grow it. And one of the things that 2020 has shown us so far is that unpredictability is a key element of any business. VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity is alive and well in this decade. And so by using these and using these measures, Lean Agile Procurement can help us address all of them. And by default, you would probably assume that Lean Agile Procurement, using this canvas approach, will only affect one of the key value areas. And a lot of people would naturally assume time to market would be addressed. Yes, and it does help the other key value areas as well. So it's an enabler because it helps you reduce your cycle time to start. So that months to days, it also helps set up partnerships so that when we get that feedback loop happening, we can have an adaptive product backlog. And that focus on managing flow and delivering value is baked in from the start. So when you talk about that true north, when you're building your canvas, it's not only what we're doing, but it's the manner in which we do it. And we do that value check to start with. So that time to market is there. It's first and foremost there. Get it done, get it out there, get the feedback, get the next thing. Ability to innovate, this adaptation and the mindset of a collaborative learning approach, learning by doing, is baked in from the start when we get together for the big room planning. We've got that clear goal focus, that vision focus. We ensure that everybody's aligned on the value proposition and having that flexibility within the partnerships to build on that.
Yeah, maybe something to add to that. We, for example, just to give the audience an example, procurement always claims we are responsible for innovation. In fact, what they're doing is, and I don't want to blame them, they are just applying the wrong tool to a complex space, is they try to describe the scope, and suppliers they select, they just deliver the scope, because it's also usually a fixed price contract. So what we do in the big room event, we, for example, and I can imagine that a lot of you guys that work in cross-functional teams, they just get the contract and you need to deliver it, right? There is no more room to, hey, I have a cool idea around this topic. So what we do is we bring in the right people into the big room event, and we ask the vendors, what ideas do you have in that context? What other customers used or made used in our context? And we build, and as Simon said, the flexibility of changing the scope is just built in the part, not just in the contract, but also in the partnership.
From the get-go, right? Because there's been so many times where you've needed some help. When I was working in different roles, you've needed a particular tool, product, support, and you send a request to procurement and be thankful for what you get. So now what we're trying to do is align on that, and particularly for complex stuff. So if you're looking for materials or paper clips, then obviously I would suggest perhaps this might not be the appropriate tool, right? If you have a simple procurement of fixed material, then your classic procurement is the appropriate tool for that job. But for a complex situation where you need that adaptation built into it, this is the appropriate spot for that. The other two key value areas, unrealized value, because we've got that that hypothesis-based approach baked in, we can then start working together to think about what's the smallest experiment that we're going to run next time around. And that way we can pursue that gap in the market. And as Mirko just said, having multiple potential partners in the room, they can help find the gap in our hypothesis. So is there a use case, a scenario that we're potentially not looking for? And so we can then start flipping that to really look for the value as early as possible. And because we have the entire value chain available from the start, so in that big room planning, we do need to have our ops people. We do need to have the people who are there that are going to put it live. And so if we're doing something as in the physical domain, if we're going to build a ship, we would have somebody from the shipyard in the room. So that we have that whole value chain there focused on market feedback, so that we can then validate whether the return on investment or the total cost of ownership will be on it. Because if our value proposition, if it's going to cost too much, then we can hear about it and realize that the first thing we should do is actually not build the thing, which might sound tough, but that's a real value proposition. And then with the current value, one of the things that we've seen when we work in a truly empowered, self-managed, cross-functional way, morale is lifted. And when we start from the outset as a united team, and we're not worrying about which shirt from which vendor we're wearing, but we're united towards delivering on a vision, then we become a collaborative team. And the handoffs and wastes drops dramatically in a similar way that when we started getting teams together to address product development, what we're doing is we're loading all the way through the value pipe from the very, very front end. So we've got everybody from every aspect of the organization, procurement, legal, marketing, sales, engineering, operations, deployment together, thinking about how can we get this to our customers to maintain that current value. And because people aren't playing the silo game, throwing stuff over the wall, the morale within the organization goes up, and the evidence is often seen in the product as well.
This is very amazing, and that's coming through in the questions here. So just something, Mirko, you actually just threw this in the chat, and it only came to some of us, but just as we're speaking, why don't you tell everyone the notification that you just received to show that there is value in this approach?
Yeah, this is just a model, but we just got the notification, and that was sent beforehand, but we didn't know. We just won the Global Procurement Award with one of our success stories. I mean, it's just recognized by the procurement community that there is a better way of working, and it's just a confirmation. You know, we know that, and we are still at the very beginning. So I also like to invite you guys out there, Scrum Masters, product owner, agile coaches, no matter if you're within a corporate or as a external, start talking to your commercial people, because what a lot of people don't know is up to 80% of business revenues are in hands of those commercial functions. So if we could improve that, you know, we could improve delivery and get the last % of improvement, getting things a bit more faster, 1 hour faster, or we could start changing, and we are talking about 400, 800% improved lead time, but also if for the procurement folks, there is also an opportunity for cost savings by not up to 80% by focus to business value, which is built in all our agile practices if you apply them correct, and by just focusing on effectiveness, sourcing the right things, right? I recently heard a statement of a CTO, which we did a success story together, and he said, well, it's mind-blowing, and if I think back the early days before Lean Agile Procurement, we were sourcing a system, and then if it's a software case, and then later on we thought about what can we use it for, and that's a very expensive way of sourcing tools, services, partners. So yeah, I'm just very proud and honored that the procurement community just yeah, acknowledged that.
So the summary that I heard ringing in my ears there is, particularly in these times, what we're talking about here is cash flow. Because what we're doing is we're optimizing our spend, and we're also optimizing the time of our spend, which ties into our business's current value. So if you're looking to excite your CFO, this could be a great way to just address the effectiveness of making sure that your business gets the right bang for its buck when you're procuring complex goods and services.
Right. I love that tie back, Simon, how you were doing that in terms of, you know, when we're talking about this, and we assume that procurement only helps us when we're thinking about our time to market, right? And even superficially, not only that time to market to actually learn something, but the delivery, just speed out the door. And we're talking about this actually really contributes to the notion of the value of organization, but how we probably, Mirko, you talked about this, and now I understand suppliers for how we can support and probably get better, you know, and this is probably, you know, a current or the next one. So management, for those who are not aware, we have an e-guide on the website that's recently been updated, and you can find that on the Scrum.org website. For the LAP website, Mirko, you mentioned a download. Is there a link or something that people, again, could you repeat that for people to find that information?
Yeah, it's the Lean Agile Procurement. I lost you, Mirko.
Yeah, Mirko's on mute.
I'm muted, sorry. Yeah, if you go back to my profile, there is the link. So it's www.lean-agile-procurement.com. It's really not a company website, it's a topic website. We have the canvas is open source, just download it, use it, send us your experiences with it. We even co-publish your stories in your name, and there are upcoming workshops are published there as well. Simon, I think you said something, you're gonna run one in UK in January.
Yeah.
There is in November. We also have online classes, obviously, and we're currently developing a new whole program, not just about procurement, but interesting topics like agile contract, the full stack. What options do we really have? Commercial conversations, as we call it, negotiation based on agile values and principles. We have a simulation online how such a big room event with multiple competitors in the same room could work, and so forth. So stay tuned, look at our website, and we also gonna co-publish some cases on Scrum.org soon as well.
Right. So before you get into that, actually, Simon, why don't you go quickly through the summary, because there's some really good questions that I'd like to make sure we get out.
So the headline is it's a tool for an uncertain environment. It is a way of sourcing complex cases. It enables you and your team to work with a hypothesis-based approach and deal with the surprises that are going to come as soon as we start working on a complex product. And we're trying to bring procurement in from the cold, because a lot of time everybody's been talking about agile and addressing many other aspects of your business, but now we have got a valid, viable, and proven solution to bring procurement into this space. And it can be applied internally between teams and between business units within your organization, and externally if you're looking for partners and vendors. And as Mirko said, you could use it as a pitch canvas, proposal canvas, etc. So there's lots of uses for this stuff. So it's just a tool, and it is a very powerful tool for complex procurement.
So we have a lot of questions now, gentlemen, and I'm sorry, everyone, if we don't get through all of them, which I don't think we will, but Mirko and Simon will get a copy of these questions, so they'll figure out a way to reply either through directly or through blogs. But we are now, we're in 2020, right? And so 2020 means a lot of things are happening virtually, and you guys talked a lot about this big room planning. Now, even if we weren't in the 2020 virtual experience, constant virtual experience, a lot of the times we're working with vendors that are not near us. They're in other countries. So what does that look like? And of course, when you're dealing with that, obviously you deal with that notion of typically prototypes, long periods, the contract coming back, that iteration, long iteration. How have you guys been working with clients in this remote experience that might transfer even to the future for us?
Well, maybe I give a short answer to that. I mean, definitely having distributed remote team members or team of teams is a challenge, but I think the past has shown that this works, and Scrum is just as the basic operating system is a great tool to give a minimum set of structure to such a team. Now, Lean Agile Procurement ties into that just very nicely, and we don't make a difference if it's virtual or in person. Obviously, you could learn much more about the behaviors, the personality of a person if you're in an in-person workshop, especially the big room. But we have cases, for example, in Russia with Gazprom, now in Australia. I'm currently working with one of the biggest brewery where we have vendors and the cross-functional team all over the world. It just, I mean, there is no way around it, right? And we will find a way to make this work even virtually.
So the short answer is Miro or Mural and Zoom.
Yeah.
So you need breakout rooms, you need visual facilitation tools. Either Miro or Mural are the two big ones out there, but whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Great. So you hit a little bit on contracting, and let's end there, if you may, with a few minutes, just 2 minutes left. What does that look like when we're looking at Lean Agile Procurement, and when we're going through these proposals? How does the bidding work? What is your experience in bringing that conversation? How do you work through the bidding, and then when you're looking at the contracts, right? And the agile contracts, it could probably be a whole nother conversation, but is it just time and material? We've been working on this relationship, building this partnership. It seems odd to go into the time and material contract, right?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, time material is just one possible application of an agile contract, and it's, in my opinion, it's one of the most unfair one for the customer, because it delegates all the risk to him. So with Lean Agile Procurement, we have solved the problem how we get to an agile contract, because we touch all the topics: collaboration model, financial model. We need to obviously co-create an agile roadmap. We need to do the estimation somehow. We need to set up the team and everything. And with the help of agile experts in the team, sometimes even externals, and the lawyer, we could craft also the legal part of an agile contract quite easily. And now we could fall back into the traditional way of thinking and say, okay, we drafted the contract, and now it's a take it or leave it. The vendor just needs to sign it, needs to put in the numbers and sign it. We don't do that. It's a base for discussion, right? So if there are clauses that are missing, or clauses that are driving costs, or we feel uncomfortable for any reason, we improve it together. So we have the lawyer having the contract on the screen, we go through it, and we immediately update the clauses together and agree to it. So there is no more back and forth, sending the documents and, oh no, I don't understand that, I need to include my lawyer, and so on. Regarding the types of agile contracts, we talk about a continuum of contract types. So on one end, there is time material. The risk is fully assigned to the buyer side. On the other side is fixed price, where we do the opposite. We delegate all the risk to the vendor. And in the middle, there are a lot of shades of gray. So for example, what I have made very good experiences is we agree on a cost roof. The payment is time material up to the cost roof, and we co-create an agile roadmap where each of the bigger time box, for example, a month, we agree on objective key results and even co-create metrics to track that we are on track. So this is a way you can do it, but there are more creative ways, like even going into a profit sharing model, or subscription, whatever.
Right. Well, we're gonna get into a whole nother topic, I'm sure, but I want to thank you both, Simon and Mirko, for presenting today, and everyone attending. I think this is a fascinating conversation where we're talking and bringing procurement into not only the value conversation, but they're actually really serving as a bridge to creating those partnerships that you were talking about. So for everyone out there, Scrum.org, obviously, we are an information radiator. There's learning paths that we have, product owner, developer, Scrum Master, and Agile leader. So there's a lot of articles and blogs and things like that you can read there. You'll find content, for instance, that's related to the topic we're touching on today, upon today in the Agile leadership track. But stay connected there's always the forum, there's the blogs, there's Scrum Pulses like this where we're able to have those conversations. And for those of you who did submit questions, we'll make sure that we get those to the speaker. So thank you again. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Mirko. Everyone, I guess stay safe and have a good day. Scrum on.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks for having me, and have a nice evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Thanks.
Bye-bye.